It's the REI Marketing Weekly, and I am your host, Josh Culler with Color Media and REI.video. And I am super excited to have a wonderful guest on the show, Sharon Vornholt. And today she is going to be talking about marketing is how you get leads. So I'm looking down at my phone here because this is excellent the way she laid it out. So the topic is marketing is how you get leads. Branding is why they choose you. So this is a topic that I love talking about. Branding is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I love branding, used to do it. That was like the core of our business before we got into content marketing. And obviously bringing in leads, that's a pretty big deal if you're a home buyer, right? Or somebody that's looking to get into private lenders, or if you're trying to build a cash buyers list or whatever it is. Leads is the lifeblood of your marketing, and marketing is obviously the lifeblood of your business. And so Sharon, coming out of Louisville, Kentucky, not too far from me, just south of us where I'm at. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Josh.
Well, good to finally connect. I know we've had to reschedule a couple times, the scheduling flukes, but our good friend Melissa Johnson actually introduced us, and Melissa is one of my original clients, and she's been on the show way back, maybe 30 or 40 episodes ago. So you guys go listen to that. Melissa is awesome out of San Antonio, Texas. But I believe, Sharon, were you on her show? Is that how
Yes.
she knows you? Okay, cool. So
yeah, we've done a little podcast switching.
Oh, sure. Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. So yeah, Melissa has a great show over there. So you guys make sure you go check it out. It's called the E3 Podcast. And I know Sharon's going to be on there as well. So before we get into it, if you guys haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the show. If you are on Apple Podcasts after this episode, not now, listen to the full episode, but after this episode, head over to the homepage of this show, leave a 5-star review. I'd much appreciate that with your feedback. Reach out to me if you have any questions whatsoever, josh@colormedia.com. Make sure you are following me on Instagram, and the handle is The Content Ninja. I was dubbed that by Matt Andrews. He called me the Content Ninja in front of 200 people at the Family Mastermind. And so I was like, hey, I'll take it and run with it. I love it. I wear black and we chop up content. That's what we do, right? All right. So make sure you do go follow me on Instagram, and then check out the REI Marketing book coming out soon. By the time this actually airs, we may have already released it, but you can still go to REI Marketing book in order to either pre-order it or purchase it. It is actually only $5 for that's only covering my shipping costs, guys. I got to cover the shipping costs. This is a marketing technique if you haven't figured that out already, but just cover the shipping costs, and then I'm going to send you the book for free, and you're going to absolutely love it. Jam-packed full of nuggets of information about how the top real estate investors in the world run their marketing for their business. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the show. Sharon, I'm excited to have you on today. I know I've been waiting for this one for a while. So if you could do me a quick favor before we get into the topic for today, which I am very excited about, do me a favor and introduce yourself for the people who don't know who you are. Just where you're from, how you got into the business, what you're currently doing today, and a little bit of the origin story of how you've gotten to where you are today.
Well, I started a long time ago. I bought my first house in 1998. I had another business, a real estate related business. So about 7 years into that, I got invited to go to a REIA meeting, which was my first introduction to the fact that you could do real estate and not be a real estate agent. So I invested for about 10 years part-time. And then in 2008, which was, of course, the worst of times and the best of times, then I went full-time. And prior to 2008, I had been using buy and hold and rehabbing, which was what I loved to do as my strategies. But overnight, I became an accidental wholesaler. So the reason for that was I was really good at generating leads. So I took that skill and I just changed it up. And since I had been in the business for 10 years at that point, it was pretty easy to just transition into lead generation.
Sure. Wow, that's very cool. And then what are you doing today in your business? What do you got going on now?
Well, I still do some wholesaling. Probates are an area that I focus on. That's what I worked primarily for the past 12 or 13 years is probate investing. I like off-market deals, which lends itself well to the different types of marketing. I'm not much a scrapper on the MLS. Sure. So I like the off-market deals, and I really am devoting the majority of my time today to teaching other people and trying to drag women into this business too. So that's a big focus of mine.
Yeah, very cool. I assume that's a big reason why you and Melissa connected well, because that's what
Mhm.
she's trying to do as well. Well, cool. So actually, something that it's kind of sparked my mind as you were talking about it, getting started in 1998. That's pretty cool. So you've been in this for a very long time. But before we get into the actual topic that we're going to be talking about, that we planned beforehand, I do want to know. I like asking this question to people that have been in the business, more than probably 10 to 15 years. When it comes down to it, what are some of the things that have changed in marketing or maybe haven't changed since you started way back in 1998 to today? I mean, I know like the acceleration of where technology has changed a lot of things. You couldn't run Facebook ads in 1998, right? So, because Facebook
There was
didn't
no
exist.
Facebook.
Right. And so what are some things that have massively changed, and how have you pivoted in the last, 15, 20 years in order to make sure you keep up with the marketing that's going on?
Well, the biggest thing, of course, is the internet and websites. Before you had the internet, before you had websites, we all went back to what is really old school, but is still very much a lead generation strategy today, which is direct mail.
Yeah.
That has never stopped. But the one thing that has made everything go faster and go easier is, of course, the internet, because you have so many ways to get known. For instance, there were no podcasts in 1998.
Mhm.
You went to maybe one of 3 or 4 seminars a year, and now there's education everywhere. So I'd say the access to education is the biggest change that I
Mm.
have seen.
That's interesting. And education, obviously, like if you're a real estate investor, but also education from a customer standpoint. So
Yes.
a seller can educate themselves on, your service, your industry, but also your
Mhm.
business specifically. So that's very interesting that you say it that way. And that, I mean, it totally makes sense. So let's go ahead and jump into this topic. And I appreciate you being willing to share that. That was very valuable. So marketing is how you get leads. Branding is why they choose you. I love the layout there. So let's just jump into it. Talk to us about what that actually means to you.
Well, at the end of the day, Josh, we're all in the business. If you're a motivated seller and you have a house for sale, whether it's we'll just say it's an off-market deal, you're going to do one or more types of marketing to get people to come and make you an offer on that house. So it all comes down to, it's all about numbers at the end of the day, but people don't always choose you solely on your numbers. They choose you because of the way you present yourself. And your brand is how you present yourself. It's people say it's what they say about you after you leave the room.
Yeah.
So sure, it's the physical aspects of the brand, but it's more about the way you make people feel. And what I have found time and time again is somebody will get however many direct mail letters or contact, however they're contacted. But if you can get in front of the seller, which is why I like off-market deals, and you present yourself in a manner that makes them assured that you can close the deal, that they've made the right choice, and you do that by baby steps, then it's not always about the money. I have bought houses where I did not make the best offer, but they trusted me the most. And that was from very purposeful from the moment, from your whatever marketing channels you're using, whether it's your website, it is the way you present yourself, it's the way you talk to them. It's about every single piece that compromises you as an investor.
Oh man, I love the way you laid that out. So like, here's the thing that I tell people all the time. It's like a brand is basically just another word. It's a technical business word for reputation. And
Yes.
if you have a reputation online, but also have that same reputation in person, and people are getting that same person, like the person that Sharon was in a video that they watched on your website, and then it's also the same person that they meet in person,
Right.
then you're highly more likely to connect with that person on a very
Yes.
genuine level. And one of my favorite people in the world, John Martinez, talks about like, you don't ever, like, if you're finding yourself consistently in a bidding war to get a house, then you are
Mhm.
doing everything wrong. You're doing your marketing wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing your sales wrong. You're
Mhm.
running your business wrong in general. Because especially if you're an experienced investor, you can't just get into bidding wars with everybody, because newbies, we all know that newbies are screwing up the market because they're paying way too much for houses. And this is the way to do it. So what are you doing specifically in order to build that good reputation with sellers, whether it's face to face or online over the phone? What are some things that you're doing in order to build that?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, and I'll use probates as an example. People tend to just pick up the phone and call them and say, "Hey, I hear you've got a house for sale. Your dad passed away." You
Hmm.
know, and I tell people, "Don't do that. Somebody's mama died," or
Yes. Yes.
So even in the for probates, we use direct mail. And that is a very nurturing, very specific sequence of letters we send. And the overriding messages, you tell them what you do, but the overriding messages, I know this is a difficult time for you, and I'll be here when you're ready. So you build that trust over however many months. Now, one thing, Josh, I will say that has changed big time since I've been in business. It used to be that you sent out some form of marketing. Now, for agents, that was everything from door knocking to whatever bench signs. But you did some sort of marketing, and then they went, "Well, okay, I like the way Josh looks. I'm going to call him. I saw his face on a bus bench." Well, they would just call you, and if you resonated with them, you might get the deal. Well, now there's a step in the middle. They see whatever your marketing is, whether it's your website or your direct mail or whatever it is, and they go online and they stalk you.
Yeah.
So there's a step in the middle. So that's your brand too. You have to build your online presence. So don't be posting wild parties on Facebook. Don't be doing things, because if you think they're not checking you out, I can tell you with 100% certainty, they are looking for any evidence that you exist. And if you don't exist online, they don't think you're real.
Yeah.
That's even elderly people tell me that. They had one guy say, "Well, he must be a shyster. He doesn't have a website." And those were his exact words.
That's great. That's actually very interesting that you bring that up too, because something I read in a book, maybe it was early last week, was, like, people are like, nowadays specifically, and I'm glad you took that turn. Nowadays, people are
Mhm.
actually, they're not really necessarily looking for reasons to go with you. They're looking for reasons to not go with you.
Not go with you.
To not
Yes.
go with you. And
Yeah.
that's like across the board for everything. I use this example on, I was recording a show earlier this morning, and we just got back from a family vacation in Idaho. And my wife and we wanted to get away just to go on a date on our own. And we were going to find a distillery. And there was two distilleries in the town that we were staying in. And one of them had about 500 reviews, and most of them were 3 to 5 stars. Well, I was looking at those three. I don't care about the 5 stars. Like, anybody could
Hmm.
say great things about it and like, and really come away with it. But for me, I look for the negative reviews. So what has the least amount of like good traction with this? So I'm reading the 3-star
Hmm.
reviews, and that's how I filter, am I going to go to this place or not?
Yep.
And that's what most people do. And that, I know that's a physical location, but the same principle applies to if you're a house buyer. People are
Hmm.
looking for reasons not to go with
No.
you because they
Hmm.
have plenty of options. And everybody will say, like, our core values are like integrity and hard work and taking care of our communities. But do you live through that with the people that you've worked with previously? And that's why reviews are such a powerful thing. So I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a really, really good point that people need to remember and make sure that they strategize their marketing around. So how are you keeping that consistent message throughout all the marketing you're doing? So yes, direct mail still does work, but how do you keep that from direct mail physically to meeting them in person to your online presence and all of the above? How are you keeping that consistent, making sure that that reputation stays well intact?
Well, I think it all goes back to authenticity. So if people are trying to choose between, let's say they're trying to choose between you and another person, they may even look up look at your website, look at your things. And if you said, I took a week off and took a family vacation, if they're a family person, hey, they've just identified with you.
Mm, yeah.
So I think you have to be real with your marketing. I try to stay consistent. My message is consistent through a decade of my blog, my podcast. And I think good, bad, or otherwise, you have to be yourself. There's that saying, you have to be yourself, everybody else is taken. So just be the best version of you and go out and authentically show people who you are. And you really can't lose if you do that. People self-select. So they will identify with you. If you're lucky, they will identify with you and what your message is. And they will choose you based on that. Now, I will say that content creation for real estate investors out there, I've been telling them forever, you have to be creating content. Now, if you don't want a podcast or maybe you don't want a blog, you can post your latest house you walk through on Facebook. You have to build an online presence, and all of that is called content. But if you don't have a presence with content, you're kind of dead in the water today.
Yeah. And there's a couple reasons. So like content is what we do. Like Sharon, I don't know if you know much about us, but that's our thing is content marketing for real estate investors, whether they're influencers or active investors. And the two things that are underlying when it comes to content is, yes, it is a reputation builder. Like I say that the content that you put out, it builds your brand. That's exactly what it does. So it's reference points. If somebody watches a video of you talking about how to sell my house, that's, I'm in pre-foreclosure, how do I sell my house? And then they watch your video, that's going to help them out. But it's also like the fact that it brings leads in, it'll generate leads for you. If you're putting if you're putting your video on your website and then you have it fully transcribed and it's keyword rich, then those two pieces of content are going to feed the algorithm when somebody actually goes to Google and searches, how to sell my house in your market. And so there's two things, like it brings leads in, but then once those leads get in the door, now it's a reference point for people to be able to, actually learn about you and learn about how your services can apply to them. Because a lot of people don't know what a real estate investor is. They don't know that they're going through pre-foreclosure. They don't know what their inherited, they don't know these terms, right? Probates and all that stuff. So I'm glad you referenced that. So from a content marketing perspective, I love hearing what people are doing because that's what we do is content marketing. What are you doing content marketing wise in order to build your reputation, build your brand, and also generate leads?
Well, I do a lot of content. I do a lot of, I do expert interviews, which I think are important so that people can get different perspectives. I do a lot of training things. So I've been hearing from a lot of investors, I'm just not getting the leads in this niche that I used to get. And so I was thinking about that. COVID has interrupted everything, no doubt about that. But I started talking to people about, well, tell me about your list, because I always go back to the basics of generating the leads. And what I found out was they were mailing high equity deals for every possible thing, absentee owners, probates. Yeah. Well, so then I created a training on this is how you should be putting your list together. So a lot of times it's by questions I get, or it's by problems. I have a pretty big circle of people around the country. So they'll say, what do you think about this? Or I'm having this problem. And it creates an opportunity to teach people. And that's the other thing I would say about content marketing. On your website, you're right. People don't often know. They know they can't make their house payment. They don't know what Liz Pendens is, or they don't know that what's really going to happen in pre-foreclosure. If you can have some videos or some sort of content on there that walks them through, let me explain this to you and how this is going to work. They then begin to look at you, not so much as, because you're right, they don't know real estate investor. They're looking for a solution. Yeah. So if they land on your site and they can find a solution to their problem that's keeping them up in the middle of the night, then that's a win-win. That's a lead you didn't have to do anything to find.
Yes. I love the way you frame that up. So like I tell people, you guys have heard me say it 100 times, content marketing, the pure definition is answering the questions that your target demographic has about your industry, your services or product. Yep. And if somebody lands on your site and they have a question in their mind, and they may not even know what the question is, but they have this question in their mind. They get to your website, they watch a video that answers that question, and it literally gives them a solution to the problem. They are going to call you. They're going to call if they're looking at 2:00 in the morning, looking for a solution to the problem because it's keeping them awake at night. As soon as your business opens up, or even before that, they're going to leave you a message on the phone, and then they're going to call you in the morning because you solved their problem. You gave them a solution, and now you can actually execute that for them. And I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, that goes back to you've just built it's kind of subconsciously, you've built your authority, you've become trustworthy, and you've built your brand, and all you've done is provide a solution. So I think people make this too hard sometimes. They think about Coca-Cola. I've got to have this logo, and I've got to have all of this. And yes, those things are important, no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, you've got to show up as an authentic person with a solution to their problem. We happen to be in the problem solving business. It just happens to involve houses.
Right.
So that's the way I like to frame it.
I love that. That's gonna be a quote card. I'm gonna keep that exactly what you just said, and we're gonna put that out as a piece of content later on. I think that's so right. I mean, we used to do branding. Our business was branding for active real estate investors in their businesses. And a lot of times, I would say, hey, send me some examples of brands that you like, just to, make sure that we're on the right track of what they want. Mm-hmm. They would send me Nike, Coca-Cola, and then, Adidas and all these other, Apple and all these other brands that, had these beautiful logos and these beautiful brands. But at the end of the day, they miss what was going on. And the thing that I would tell people is you have to make sure that it's relevant. Especially like if you're talking about the design specifically, that's outside of, the actual like execution of the brand. But if you're talking about like a logo, the colors, the fonts and all that, it's just all has to be relevant to what your target demographic is. And somebody that's in that demographic that's needing to sell their house is distressed. Typically they're in the older age group. They're not necessarily looking for a Apple, like simple Apple brand. Like they may want something that's more mom and pop shop, like type look to it. Something that's more like Sharon buys houses, right? A lot of people say don't do that, but hey, why not? If it works, then if that's what's relevant to people, then that's what you have to do. And then on top of that, it's the building of the brand, which is the content. It's the execution of it. It's the actual like delivery of the service that you're doing and solving the problem from. That's all branding. The rest is just smoke and mirrors if it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's so true. And, used to say your wealth is the sum of the people that you know. And I disagree with that. I think it's all about who knows you.
Yes.
So if you can build your presence, you certainly need an online presence. And there are many ways to do that. I know successful investors, they're never going to have a blog. They're never going to have a website, but they're really good at posting pictures of properties they've looked at on social media and commenting. I know somebody that got a boatload of private money that way when his private lender backed out, because over the span of 2 years, he built up his credibility online by saying, I'm an investor. I help people. Oh, look at this house I'm going to buy. And it was really that simple. So it doesn't have to be hard.
Yes. And yeah. So like this is what we're going to end with, because we got to let you go. We're going to have you back again soon, because all of us has been gold. But one thing I like to tell people too, is that content, you have to look at it as your resume, right? It's literally a resume. And some of our clients that we work with, they're not necessarily influencers, but I think of one of my clients, Spencer Shadrack. He's down in Memphis, Tennessee. And a lot of the content so he's got a coaching program. He's got a course that we're launching and a small mastermind group and all that kind of stuff. But what he's going for is the content that he's putting out is we're filming stuff where he's at projects. He does new development projects. He also does flips and wholesales. And we're talking about the deals. We're doing case studies. We're doing, here's what here we're laying the foundation, and here's what's going to happen after we lay the foundation. And what that does is it's creating a resume, an online resume for people to be able to see. And he's raised tons of private money through people just watching the videos like that. He's also built good relationships with wholesalers, because wholesalers are like, I want to sell these deals that I get to somebody that knows what they're doing. This guy knows what he's doing because he's talking about it on, daily videos, and that's what it does for you. And so I think content marketing is definitely, it's got so many incredible benefits. And one of the biggest things is it gives you an online resume of what you're all about, basically. And that's why I say it's a brand builder. So Sharon, oh my goodness, this has been such a great show. So much gold that's in here. We're definitely going to have you back again soon. I do want to give you the opportunity. So I know you mentioned a couple of trainings that you've done. So what is the best way for somebody to maybe get a hold of those trainings, or the best would be to get in contact with you? What would be the best way to do that? Whether that's a phone number, email, website, or whatever you want to send people to.
I would tell them to go over to the blog. I've been blogging since 2010. So I'm coming up on, a boatload of content. We'll say that. So Louisville Gals Real Estate blog, they can link off to the podcast from there. They can link off to my course, Probate Investing Simplified. They can find it all in that spot. And you can also contact me through that website.
Awesome. Okay, and I will have that linked below, guys. So make sure you do check that out. Just you've heard the show. If you're like listening to the show, you're like, should I go to the website? Well, you've already heard the show, and this is just like 15 minutes of her wisdom. So go over to the website. Make sure you take advantage of all that. Sharon, thank you so much for being on the show. We look forward to having you back again soon. Hopefully, you'll be back on.
Thank you, Josh.
All right, guys,
I'd
that's
love
going
to
to do
come
it.
back.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to have you back. Guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining on and listening. Again, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you have to the show. Right now is the time. If you are an Apple Podcast, head back over to the reviews page of this show. Leave a 5-star review with your feedback. I much appreciate that. And then make sure you are going to reimarketingbook.com. Purchase that book. It's only, well, it's you're not even purchasing the book. You're just paying for the shipping. $5 for the shipping is all you're paying, $4.95. And then you're going to get the book for free. It may be on pre-order right now, depending on when the show goes out. If not, it is going to be launched already. So you'll get that book fairly quickly. So make sure you do. reimarketingbook.com, jam-packed full of nuggets and tactical things that the top real estate investors in the world are doing in their marketing. So thank you guys so much for listening today, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.